Hello and welcome to the fourth Excel 2010 training. Today we're going to look at a real potpourri of different things, which is going to include things like find and replace. We're going to look at filters, headers and footers. We're going to look at a few more advanced formulas, sorting and auto sums, which is quite a bit to get through. So let's just begin straight away. First thing we're going to look at, so I've got some random information here that's, what is it? It's pretending to be from a hotel, and I think what's happened is there's been an inventory of different rooms. So here is all of the information pertaining to room 1, all the items that are in it, quantities of them, when it was checked, whether anything's broken, and who looked at it. Okay, so those are, for the purpose of what we're going to do, this is sort of perfect type style of information. And this is something that you may have yourself in your own company, so inventories of lists. So if we do have these inventories, at the moment, there's quite a bit of information here, and what I want to do is I want to be able to filter it down and just see who's done what, say. So what I'm going to use is something called filtering. It used to be called auto filter. I think they've dropped the auto part of it. But it's quite easy to do. The only thing you have to really do beforehand, and you probably would have it by default anyway, is your information generally has to have some sort of headings. So as you can see, we've got room number, item, quantity, date checked, status and checked by there. So I'm just going to click on the whole row 1. And what that's going to do is just select everything that's on row 1. We're only concerned here with A to F, but it will select everything. And I'm going to come over here, I'm on the home ribbon, and I'm going to click down, and we're going to look at the sorting ones in a moment, but we're going to look at filter. Okay, and filter gives you a little sort of a funnel there as the picture, and that's the idea. We're going to funnel down the information. Now when you first do it, not a lot really happens, apart from we've got these drop down arrows that are sort of almost in the way at the moment of being able to read the heading. So let's do the trick that we learned a couple of weeks ago, where I can select all and just double click on one of the gaps between one of the columns, and that will automatically expand all of these columns. So now we can see the column header as well as the little auto filter option. And let's actually see what this does. So if, for example, I now click on my drop down arrow, I'm presented with some information, and at the moment it's selecting all. It's showing me every bit of information, which is what do you expect? Nothing has changed from how it originally looked. Well, let's imagine that I just want to see the rooms that Mrs. Green has checked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to untick Mr. Brown and Miss White, and I'm just going to press OK, and let's see what happens. And what it's done is it's filtered. It's not deleted or anything like that, it's just hidden the other data, and it's just now showing me all the results checked by Mrs. Green. Now we can now go ahead and filter it again. So let's see all of the things that she checked that were just a quantity of 2. So I've got the select all button, so by default everything is selected. We're not filtering anything out. So the quickest way to do it is to deselect everything and then just choose the one I want to see. So now we've got 2 filters in place. We're only displaying things that were checked by Mrs. Green and things that were a quantity of 2. Okay, so if this is a 1, a 3, or 4, it's obviously gone, and if it's been checked by anybody else, it's gone. So this is just Mrs. Green with a quantity of 2, and we could add another one. I mean, it's getting a bit. Let's just see tables, for example, and now that will leave us probably with just one thing. Okay, and we've got a whole so now we've got quite a few things checked there. The great thing about filters is you can just turn them on and off nice and easily. You don't even to remove them, because you only have one filter per spreadsheet. You can just come to filter, and you can you can either choose clear. So if I choose clear, that removes all of the filters but leaves the the drop down still in place. So that's probably the best option. I'm just going to undo that, and I'm just going to come back. And the other thing you can do is just turn off the filter, which is quite an easy process. I think the clear filter might be a newer feature. I wasn't expecting to see that, but I like that. I'm going to use that in future. So let's just turn the filtering back on. Just so that we get an idea, let's see all of the broken things. So that anything that is regarded as unserviceable. So I'll just leave unserviceable checked, press OK, and presumably in our hotel, these are all the things we'd have to replace. Okay, so it's quite a simple idea, but it's something I personally use all the time in my working life. As you know, we're assessors and we've got many candidates, and I'm always I'll have several or maybe dozens of candidates from one company, and so I'll turn on the filter and I'll just see all the candidates from that company. Or I'll do it another way, I'll show all my candidates and then I'll see, well, just who hasn't completed the spreadsheet unit yet, or who has, and I can just, by turning these filters on and off, it quickly shows me, as long as I keep my data up to date, the work, who's working and who isn't, okay, who will get their Christmas presents and who won't. So great, really, really useful feature there, filters. I use it almost every day, I think I could say. So I'm just going to remove it now. Let's have a look now at the idea of sorting things. So you may want to, at some point, put things in alphabetical order. It isn't necessarily applicable for what we're doing here, or for this particular data, but I can still show you exactly how it works. And commonly, if you have a bunch of names of people, then if we sort them into alphabetical order, then it's easier for the the human brain to scan through and find the person you want. So let's have a go at doing that. I think the thing that most on this column most works well in alphabetical order is the item column. Okay, there's a couple of ways we can do this. I'll sort of show you what I think is the easiest way to start off with. So I'm going to select B, the whole B column. Okay, and this is going to select down to sort of row 41 there. And it's actually going to select everything in B column, but it will only use data down to 41. And then back to exactly the same ribbon, on the home ribbon, and the same button we pressed before. And now I've got the options here. We can see I can sort from A to Z, or I can sort from Z to A. And I'm sure I don't have to explain that. So let's go for A to Z. And what we get is this sort of little warning. And I'll show you what the warning is talking about. First of all, I recommend always going with this expand selection, okay? And then we say sort. So I'll show you what the difference is in a second. Just press the sort button, and there we go. So we now have all of the items in B column have been sorted in alphabetical order. But because we expanded the selection to include things on either side, then these rows are still correct, okay? Let me show you what happens if we don't do that. Okay? So, if I just select the B column, okay? Now, so I'll go into filter, sort A to Z, and I'm just going to carry on with the current selection. And all this is going to do, the difference this is this is just going to sort this one column. Okay? So, if you watch A2 and C2, these numbers aren't going to move, okay? And so it's sort of you've just sort of ruined all your data at this point, because presumably each time something's done, one line of data is entered, okay? Well, we've just sorted one line, but you'd normally want to, I mean, not always, but I can't really think of many occasions when you wouldn't. You want everything to sort, don't you? So you want to sort the whole of B column alphabetically, but you want the other numbers and things to move with them. Yeah, so so I'll undo it. Oh, there we go. So let me show you, I've got a great idea. Let me select something and make it go red. This will And in fact, yeah. Now, we'll see the difference here now. Select the B column. This is a much better way, or hopefully, just to reinforce it. Select the B column, and I will sort it from A to Z, and I'll just expand the selection as I'm recommending we do, and I say sort. Okay? And look, you can see that it's moved the whole column, the whole row, down, 5 or 6 spaces, but everything is still in exactly the same place because we've expanded the selection to include everything. These are alphabetical, so that's what we're basing the whole sort of the whole spreadsheet is on the B column, but we can still see that this row is all intact, and indeed every row is intact, it's just been sorted. So let me undo. Now let me sort it, this time just basing it on one column, and you'll see the difference here. Sort A to Z with just the current selection, and now, boom, all the data is now sort of has lost its usefulness to us because we were just sorting this one column. Okay. Occasionally, I'm trying to think of a use where you might want to sort one column. Well, it depends if the data isn't linked to each other. Okay. So obviously here, room 1 had 2 glasses. There were 4 of them. It was checked on this date, which was serviceable by Mr. Brown. We want all that information to remain intact. Okay. I think I probably overran that point. They say that you don't know something until you can explain it. And I was just making sure I knew it. Well, I do know it, I was just making sure I could explain it. So, let's look at another way you can do sorting. So let's just select all of all our data, okay? And we'll come back here and we'll just, same place, and we'll just do custom sort this time. So Z to A is obvious, that will just sort it in reverse alphabetical order. But custom sort is quite useful. And you can do this just by clicking on any of the columns, but this sort of probably makes it a little bit more explicit. So this time, so what we've got here on the left-hand side is all our headings. Okay, so room number, item, quantity, all correspond to these things across the top. I'm sure that's quite simple. So let's do quantity, okay? And we'll sort the values from largest to smallest, and we'll press OK. And obviously we've got all the data selected, so we're not going to have that issue whereby things get messed up. Okay, so here we've now got, you can see that we've got 4, and then 2, and then 1s. Okay, so we've just sorted things based on quantity. Let's do one more. Custom sort, and let's do who it was checked by. So let's do checked by, and notice also it's just being smart, but it's just changing. So when we were on quantity, for example, it's doing it from largest to smallest, as in numbers. You can't really sort letters from largest to smallest. When we move to checked by, which is alpha characters, then it asks us if we want to sort it A to Z or Z to A. Okay. We can also sort on other things apart from values. We can sort on cell color, font color, and icons. And we looked at icons to do with conditional formatting last week. But we'll just keep as is with values. So let's press OK. And there we go, we've just done another sort there. So now Miss White, so MI, followed by MR, and then MRS. So those are now sorted in alphabetical order. Okay, that's great. Now let's we're sort of keeping up in this top right hand corner of the home ribbon this week. Let's have a look at find, and specifically sort of find and replace. So we've got a whole bunch of different things that we can find. If we can find formulas and comments and conditional formatting, and it will just highlight that. So there's no conditional formatting at the moment, so it says no cells were found. If, for example, I was to put some conditional formatting that we did last week, if I was to put some, so that one cell there has some conditional formatting, it obviously doesn't meet the condition, so the formatting hasn't been triggered. But now if I go find conditional formatting, it immediately jumps me to the one cell that's got conditional formatting on it. I'll just clear that away. So we can just use find, and we could just go, well, find what. So if you've got a, you know, I use this as well. I'll search by somebody's name, but let's just do find Mr. Brown here. And it finds the first instance that it comes across of Mr. Brown, I think in relation to where the cursor was, which is why it's jumped to here. We've got the find next, and we've got find all, which is just showing me on here, and I can jump to them, and it gives me their cell references, so it's quite useful the find all command. However, finding itself, yeah, well, actually finding itself is very useful. If you've got a large spreadsheet with lots of names on it, and you're scrolling them around and you haven't sorted them into alphabetical order as we've just seen, then the find command is very useful. I want to show you something. One of our screenshots that we ask is find and replace. So this is very useful. It turns out, quite embarrassingly, it wasn't Mr. Brown, it was Mrs. Brown, and he wasn't very happy. She wasn't very happy when we got the sheet back. So I need to change all of Mr. Brown to Mrs. Brown. So you could imagine a company name change or a slight spelling mistake or something like that. And we don't want to do that, so let's go for it. So I'm going to press replace, and it changes the one I was on, and then it automatically finds the next one. So I can press replace and replace. You can already see this is a little bit tedious, but you can see exactly what it's doing. It's finding Mr. Brown and it's changing it to Mrs. Brown. Well, let's just press the replace all button. Boom. Tells me exactly how many it's made. So it's made 16 replacements. Press OK, and now a little visual, I'll just close this down, and a little visual scan indicates that there are no more Mr. Browns. Okay, so that's just a very useful feature, sort and replace. One of the screenshots, I believe, is asking for sort and replace, so that's fine. Or find and replace, sorry, not sort and replace. It's next to sort up here. Okay. Next, we're going to have a look at headers and footers. Not sure why I said that in such a prolonged piece. So here we are. On the page, sorry, I'm just confusing myself for 1 second here. There, I couldn't see it for looking. So here we are. We're going to have a little look at headers and footers. Headers and footers you may be aware of probably from maybe word processing. You may have seen it a little bit more commonly. And it's simply whereby on the bottom of every page you may have the page number printed out. And that's typically been put in the footer, or it might have some copyright information or the name of the company. Anything that you want printed out on every page, and if you want it at the top of the page or the bottom of the page, the top of the page is the header and the bottom of the page is the footer. And that's what it's there for. You won't actually see it in the spreadsheet. It won't affect the data in any way. It's for when you're printing this work out, items just appear in the header or footer. So let's talk less about it and show you more. So I've just clicked on my header and footer option, and we've got a whole bunch of, so what we've got is, so again, the context sensitive menu has come up. At the moment we're in the header, little button here, go to footer. So that's just jumping around, and what it's doing is it's showing us how this document will look when it's printed out. So you can see we've got this page divide line here. So these things will all fit on an A4 page, and at the moment, what orientation are we in? Well, hopefully you know that we're in portrait, so it's tall and thin, as opposed to landscape, which is short and fat. Let's go back. I've clicked off of it. That's one of the almost annoyances with this context-sensitive ribbon. You click away for 1 second, click on anything, and poof, it goes. And then you have to go like, oh, okay, let me re-find it. So just be aware that that can happen. And so here's the header and footer. And so look, what it's doing is it's saying, do you want something in the middle of it, at the top of it, or at the bottom of it? So let's just put my name at the top. I can write it out without any spelling mistakes, which I should be able to. And at the bottom, let's just put work skills limited. limited. Oh, my spelling, my typing is a little bit off today. We can put other things in, so let's fill it up. Let's put the current date in here. And what it's actually doing is we've got a bit of a cryptic looking thing here, and date. And really that's just a formula. And that formula, when it's printed, will trigger and put the date in. Okay? Let's put one more thing in. I mean, we're making this look a little bit, let's just put the number of pages in. Okay, and again, a little formula here, because it doesn't know how many pages, or page number would probably be more specific. So I've got pages and page number. In fact, I'm actually going to delete both of those and just have the page number there. So anything else I want in the header? Let's put the file name in the top left hand corner. So quite a bit of information there. Let's click out of this now. And you can see that when we come out of it, it is actually showing us all this different information, this different data. Okay? And it's still, nicely, it's still editable. Once we've turned on the use of these headers and footers, they're actually still editable. And so I can go in and if my mum was watching, she might want it to say Daniel Heaford, like that. So they're still, that's great, they're still there, they're still editable. This is the name of my file, just auto filter. Let's have a look. So let's come to the file menu. A little bit slow, just because we've got this virtual machine. And we'll come to the print tab. And this is going to show me on the right hand side a print preview. And this is how the whole document will look when it's printed. Okay? And so, looking at that, mainly my eye was actually drawn to these columns. I'm going to make a little alteration to this in a second. But you can see down here we've got page number 1, we've got work skills limited, and we've got the date. Now, if we go back into our, let's go back down to the bottom left hand corner. Let's actually now write page, put a space, press return, okay? And now it says page 1. So the formula bit, if I click on it correctly, so this and page, that's just going to change into 1 or 2 or whatever page you're on. So you can always have other ones. So I could, for example, write page, so that's going to say page 1, and I could say of, and then I could add in number of pages. So we'll see how this looks in a second. The other thing I noticed, and this is a key thing, that you want to see what things look like when they're printed out or in print preview. And I really didn't like this right-aligned formatting on this room number. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to center all of my headings, and then I'm going to center this row and the quantity, just because I think it will look better. Let's see. Might not. It may do. Bits of trial and error in these things. So again, we go to print preview. Now look. So I wrote the word page 1 of 1. Okay. So both ones are being generated by formulas. The date's being generated by a formula there. We've got work skills there. I think this is looking a lot nicer. Maybe if it was being printed out, I would want a little inserted row. Let's just do that very quickly just to see what it would look like. So let's just insert a row. I'm going to right click, choose insert. Okay, everything moves down. The nice thing about using insert is that all of the formulas and everything like that will move down as well. Got a little bit of a problem with the formatting there, so I'll just remove the formatting. It just duplicates the formatting. When you insert a row, any formatting that's on the row above it will get duplicated. So I think this is probably looking a bit better. Let's just have a little look. And yeah, there we go. And then you start getting more and more critical about things. So now I'm not so happy with the date checked, and I think there needs to be a little bit of a gap. It's looking just a little bit too close here and here. But I will stop doing that now. So yeah, we were basically looking at the idea of headers and footers there. So I'm going to just leave it with how it is at the moment. You can carry on changing these things forever. So now that so let's come back into our home menu. Now, the last thing to know about headers and footers is that once we're happy with them, they're sort of, you know, when we were looking at our data before, I didn't have this like line down the middle of my screen here. You know, I can actually hover the cursor over it and click hide white space, which is the white space referring to this gap between the G and the H. But I didn't have that gap before, and I couldn't see my headers and footers whether they were there before. It was just like one big grid. Okay, and the reason is in the view when we start working with the header and footer, it changes from our normal layout to just the page layout, and page layout is just showing us exactly what it says how it looks on the page. Okay, and what we really want to do is just go back to the normal view. It's just hiding the headers, hiding the footers, no problem at all. So I think that's quite. Just remember that once you've turned that off and on again. I just clicked on a button there just to see what it did. So this page break preview is just showing me where the page breaks will occur. So, and we can actually see them in another way. Page breaks is going to be this dotted line, this thin line. This is tracing around the outline of my portrait. So you know, you can tell it. I'll select the whole area that's going to be the page. So that's one page there, and you can just tell from that little dotted line. Okay, so that's great. So I think that's most of the things we need to know. So just remember headers and footers, that once you've done it, it's probably best once you've finished to come back to the view menu, so the view ribbon, sorry, and just choose the normal layout again. Okay, we probably don't want any other layout after that. I don't think any of them are as pleasant to work in. So let's finish off now by just looking at the count and CountIF formulas, which are a little bit more advanced, but really useful, really good. So let me show you. So let's count how many rooms we checked. Okay, I mean we could work it out by sort of looking at the lower. You know, we've gone down to row 42, and then we started on row 3 because rows 1 and 2 with a heading and a space. So you know we could work it out. You know, we started on row 3 down to 42. You might think it's 39, but then we're actually including the third, so it's probably 40. But let's. I'm making it sound more complicated yet to go. So let's do this. Equals. All formulas always begin with equals, and let's do count. And just notice. So let's start getting a bit cleverer here. Let's start not having it spoon-fed quite so much. So I've typed the word count because I know my formula begins with count. Now let's actually look how Excel's trying to help us. It's showing me all of the different formulas that begin with the expression count. So we've got count A, and then, even better, next to it is an explanation of what it does. Counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. Count A counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. Count blank counts the number of empty cells. CountIF and CountIFs. Okay, so we're going to look at all of these. Maybe not count blank actually, but I think you can understand what that does. Okay, so let's just do count, and so also the other thing is, so I've started typing. So here are all of the formulas that begin with COU. Okay, and so what you can use is you can sort of use this autocomplete feature. So let me just do it right from the beginning, and I'll show you how I'd use it. Equals, and then I start typing in count, and when I see that the blue is highlighted, you know, I can see there the one I want. I press the tab key, and look what it does. This is great, and you know, this is how you start using it. Not only is it filled in the rest of the word, but it's also done the left bracket for me. So now I just have to say the area that I want to count. So let's scroll up because it's quite long. So it starts at A3. So I'll do it by selecting with the mouse. You can certainly do it the other ways that we've seen before. So my count formula is from A3 to A42. I'm going to close my brackets. I'm going to press return, and I get the result 40. Okay. Let's drag this across all 5 or 6 of whatever my rows are, and let's just have a little look at what different answers we've got there. So I'm just going to make a note here that this is the count formula. I'll just write count. So if we remember what it said about count, okay, it says here, counts the number of cells. Can I move that around? Look at that. That's cool. Counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. So it's obviously this contain numbers bit here that is the reason why some of these are zeros, because obviously there's things in every one. So let's have a look at this. So Excel obviously treats dates as numbers, something to bear in mind there. Text obviously are not numbers. Okay, so it's counted me 40 items here, none here. I mean, they're all the same number of things. In fact, if I delete one, then my formula will update to say 39. So let's have a couple. We'll just go ahead and mess around with this a little bit, just so we've got a few different values coming up. Whoops. Okay. Now, so that was the one type. Let's now look at count A. In fact, I'll write these in I'll write it in capital letters. Let's see, just because that's how they come up in the formula. So let's go back here. Again, so now, this time, I can look, I'm using my, you don't know this, but I'm using my arrow keys. Okay, so I know that this is the one I want. So I'm going to press tab. And don't worry if this little, you can just always manually type them out, but we're teaching you to be faster. So again, exactly the same range. Can I remember it? I think it was A3 colon, and then I can just see it's A42 at the bottom. So that's the same area. Close my brackets, press return. I get 40. Not surprisingly, exactly the same as the first one. Let me just align that to the right. But let's now copy this across and let's see what difference this has made. Okay. So count A, just delete that little bit of mess there. Count A counts any cells that are not blank. So this is probably more useful than the count one. Unless, so what you get is you get a flexibility, don't you? So sometimes you might have numbers mixed in here. So I'm just going to really mess around with this, but so if for example you might have formulas and it might say NA not applicable, or it might have the number, and you've designed your spreadsheet. Well, now look, now it's counting. We're counting both. There's 4 things here that have got numbers in, but there are 40 things altogether. Okay, so one counts cells that have just got anything in it. Okay, and that's why this one's saying 37, because look, I've deleted 3 things here. Okay, and this one is just counting numbers. Well, there's no numbers in this whole column, so it's going to be 0. These are both 38 because this one is counting numbers and this one is counting cells with anything in. Okay? If I was to add the word at here for some reason, then this will change to 39 because there are 39 cells with something in, but 38 of them are numbers. Okay, great. Let's have a look. Let's see a few more. So, count blank, I'm not going to bother with. CountIF. I will do CountIF. I'm just going to do it on the cell next door because it'll be more interesting. Equals. So, CountIF. And I actually quite like pressing the tab to auto-complete it. Okay? Now, this is very important. This is when you're, at this point, hopefully formulas are not seeming too scary. Hopefully you're understanding that it's the equal sign, it's a word that's going to trigger some sort of thing, and it's normally always some open and closed brackets. Okay, now, this is what you have to, this is what you do, this is what you learn now. The CountIF formula and because I selected it and pressed the tab, so it's half completed it for me. Look what's happening next. Look what's happening in our little helpful box here that's just sort of trying to help us out. It's saying the next thing I should put in is my range. And what does range mean? Well, range is just the area that we want covered. If you're summing, what range are you summing up? Okay, so let's just go with the range. So the range is going to be the same as it was before. So that was B3 now, because we're in the B column. So B3 colon B42. Now, notice it says, I'm looking at the box below again. Notice it says range, and then it's got a comma. So I've just typed in the range, B3 to B42, and now I'm going to press the comma. And now it jumps over, and it's highlighted the word criteria. So it's telling me, it's helping me to complete this formula. Okay? And I want to count how many times the word iron appears. Now there's just something, and most computing works the same way. When you're dealing with text, it's like words that are human words, like iron or table or wardrobe or anything like this, any text, you generally have to put them in quotes. Okay? It's just one of those things, you learn it and you forget it. You learn it and then it doesn't bother you. So, I'm just going to close my brackets here. What's this going to do? Well, hopefully, this is going to go through all of my selection of B3 to B42 and count the number of times the word iron appears. Let's press return. And we get the answer 4. Okay? If I drag this across, obviously we're going to get zeros in all the others because the word iron doesn't appear in any of those other columns. Okay? And this is, really quite powerful now. You can start counting very specific occurrences of things throughout your data. Okay? So that's it for today's session. I'll just add the word CountIF here. CountIF. So hopefully you get the ideas of what we've been talking about regarding the counts. Very useful functions. And just a final thought is that, everything builds on each other. So we've started off with very basic formulas, and now we're starting to get more, slightly cleverer formulas, slightly more complicated, but they're always following this same idea of equals, then a word, and then brackets, and now we know that if you follow the action of just going, say, equals, let's say CountIF, and then we press tab to complete, to auto-complete that, we get this idea where it will actually help us. And it's, once you understand what the words mean, range, criteria, you can start using formulas that you've never used before. So sometimes you might have an idea of what you want to do. So what you have to do is maybe Google and a formula. Okay, so you Google, the idea of what you want to do. So say you didn't know that count blank existed. Then you would Google something like count blank cells, and then it would come back and it would say count blank. And then using the little helper down here, you can help yourself to start building things that you didn't know existed. Okay, so that's great. So I'm going to end there, and I will see you all again, or speak to you all again next week.